I'm going to turn this over to Camilla Jeffs, who is an amazing business advisor with Cultivate Advisors. She's run her own businesses, scaled 4 of them, and her goal is to help you find a business that you love and then find a way to exit it, whether it's selling it or handing it off to another loved one. So she's going to share with us today. So
today I'm going to share with you 5 strategies to build a very sustainable, high value business and help you scale your business. So we all love the idea of growing, but I also want to make sure that we are growing sustainably, because I have had some moments in my businesses where I did not grow sustainably, and I ended up like in the fetal position on the floor, sobbing because I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on and I couldn't handle it all. So I want to make sure that we are scaling sustainably. So just a quick little background about me. I like to say I'm real world grit because I've owned 4 different businesses. The first business I owned was a music education business, had several employees in that one. And then I owned a property management business. I have owned an apartment business, and then a construction business, and also a financial education business. So with all of those businesses, I also took a break in the middle because I'm like, oh, maybe I want to do corporate. I want to try out corporate. So I went back to school, got my MBA, and was an executive HR leader. So I specialize in really the people, right? People and process is what I'm really good at. And I just exited my construction company. So I bought it and grew it to multiple 7 figures, and just exited that. And now I get to be a business advisor, which is the coolest job in the world, because I get to talk to other people who are running businesses, get to help them know that they're not alone in their thoughts and feelings. And because, as a business owner, you probably experienced this, but the people I go for a run with in the morning that are not business owners, I can't really share with them how stressed I am about making payroll this week, right? So there's a lot of things that it's just nice to have a community around, and nice to have an advisor, nice to have someone you can talk to, and someone who can help guide and direct you along the way. And so I used advisors myself throughout my career, owning businesses, and they were always so helpful, and I just loved it. And so now I get to do the same. So it's pretty cool to be able to turn around and put my hand down and pull up some of you and help you out as well. So I'm going to talk to my solopreneurs first, because we all start out as solopreneurs, right? And that's a perfectly acceptable, great way to start. And it's kind of the only way to start if you're launching your own business, is okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it all myself. Unless you're one of those lucky ones that has a best friend that's let's do this together, and then you get to do it with someone else. But the majority of us start out solo. And the problem is there's a trap waiting for you in years 1 to 3, right? Because you start going and you're doing all the things, and then suddenly you get to a ceiling, right? You hit a plateau, and you're I can't really, there's not more of me. I need another one of me. But the problem is you can't duplicate yourself, right? You are the brain, you are the mastermind, you are so amazing. There's not another one of you in this world. And so you can't duplicate yourself. So you have to start figuring out, okay, you have to ask yourself, do I even want to get bigger, right? Do I want to get bigger, or do I just want to kind of hang out and just do my own thing for, the future? I'm assuming since you jumped on this webinar that you're interested in getting bigger, right? And so how do we get past the solopreneur, right? How do we get to the next level? And so that's exactly what I'm speaking to today, is getting from solo to level 2, right? So we're level 1 to level 2. Let's level up. So tip number 1, I have 5 tips for you. Number 1 is to know your freedom point. So I want you, this is hard to do as a solopreneur, but I want you to build with an exit mindset, right? Which means your freedom point is how much money you want to make if you sold your business. So say you built your business to a point where you could sell it, or you just step away. How much money do you need to have in order to fund your lifestyle? What's your freedom point? Now I put 10 million, right? Some of you might be like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. Some of you might be like, that's not nearly enough money, right? We all have a different point of view here. And, but what to you would be a freedom point? And then as you think about that, I want you to shoot for high in the sky, right? Don't be conservative here. We're going to just go for it, because the more you tell your brain that that's the number that you want, the more it starts to work in the background on your behalf to try and get there, right? If you tell your brain like, oh yeah, I know, I just want $100,000, then that's pretty much all you'll get is $100,000. But if you're telling your brain, no, we need 2 million here, and that's what we're working towards, your brain is pretty dang cool, and it can help you in the background and work on your behalf in order to hit the dollar figure that you want. So the other thing I want you to think about is that if you build an exit-ready business, it's going to protect your net worth, because most businesses actually end because of these 5 Ds here: death, so disability, divorce, disagreement with like a partner or something, and distress. So that's how most businesses end. And so if you are building with this exit mindset, a business that's ready to sell is actually a lot easier to run today than one that is not ready to sell. And that takes us into our next tip here, which is knowing when to hire. This is something that is so hard, but I want to give you a formula. I want to make it not subjective. I want to make it not emotional. I don't want you to hire on gut feeling. I want you to do a test of your financial health. So you're going to want to write down this formula. And if you're not very financially savvy, that's okay. I'll explain it in real world terms, right? So what you want to do is you want to take your net revenue. So net revenue means all the revenue that comes in. So say you have a flower shop. I'm going to use a flower shop for an example. And at the flower shop, you buy your flowers and then you sell the flowers. Okay. So your income, so the top line, your gross revenue, is all the money that people pay for the flowers, right? So if you have a bouquet, for example, and that bouquet, you sold it for $50. So you get $50 coming in, and then you have to take out, well, what was the cost of the actual flowers? Like, how much did I spend for the actual flowers and maybe the vase? So maybe that is $20, right? So 50 minus 20 is $30. So that is what's called your net revenue. So your net revenue is the money you actually made on that bouquet, right? Now you have other expenses, right? If you're running a flower shop, you have rent, you have utilities, you have your salaries that you're paying your folks, right? And so there's other expenses there. And then so you'll take out the other expenses plus the new salary. So whoever you're going to hire, say you're going to hire someone for $20 an hour and they're going to work part-time. Well, you got to add in that new salary as you take that out. Okay, so you have your net revenue minus your expenses plus the new salary of the new person you're going to hire. Divide that all by that same net revenue number, right? So our net revenue number was $30 divided by $30. Okay, that number needs to be bigger or equal to 15%. If that number is bigger or equal to 15%, you can hire. You can absolutely hire. Okay, you have enough money, you can do that. If it drops below 15%, so say you add that new salary in it and it's coming in at 12%, then you've got to do something else first, right? So you got to solve pricing or your gross margin, meaning the gross margin is that $30 number. So that 50, you sold it the base for 50, took out 20 for the cost, and it was 30. Well, maybe that's not enough. So maybe I need to source and get my flowers cheaper somewhere else so that they're only $15 to me, right? Before you can add payroll. So that is a formula for you on when to hire. Okay, tip number 3 is to stop buying roles and instead buy time. So often a solopreneur makes the mistake of hiring an expensive full-time role too early. So instead, I want you to do an audit, right? What is your weekly workload? And it's something that one of my advisors put me through, and she like forced me to fill out the spreadsheet. And I'm glad she did, because I honestly wouldn't have done it. So my advisor not told me I had to do this, but filling out this spreadsheet, and I had to fill out every task that I did in the business. And then I had to rate that task and says, well, could this task be done by like, what's the dollar figure for this task, right? So if you see on here, this slide, $20 an hour tasks are things like scheduling, invoicing, basic admin, editing, stuff like that, right? And then are there $75 plus an hour tasks, which is strategic sales, client delivery, partnership deals, negotiating with your suppliers, things like that, right? Because every hour you spend on a $20 admin task wastes $55 of your potential growth value. So you should be focusing on those $75 plus an hour tasks. And that's where, and so if you do this task audit and you write down, here's all the things that I'm doing, because I know a lot of people say, well, hire a virtual assistant. And I think one of my problems was, well, I don't know what they'll do. What are they supposed to do? And this is exactly how you figure out what they're going to do, because you audit exactly what you are doing and you carve out a bunch of those things and you give that to the virtual assistant. However, there's a step before that, which is tip number 4, which is called standardizing. This is by far one of the most important things to do and one of the most boring things to do for your business is standardizing. So recording SOPs. SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedures. So this is where, in your flower shop, if you want somebody to fill out the invoices and they're online, then you got to sit down and you got to create a simple Loom. Loom can be your best friend here. And if you don't know what Loom is a screen recorder that records your screen while you're speaking so that you can show people how to do one time and not all the times, right? Because one of the things that we struggle with is if we hire a person, we're like, okay, I want you to do invoicing and billing and the admin tasks. And then they have a bunch of questions, right? Well, how do I do that? And then they forget after they've done it one time and they have to come ask you again. And sometimes they have to ask you 10 times. And that's okay. Like not everybody learns really fast right away. But if you did not create a walkthrough or a document that just step by step that they can just simply follow, then you're going to be pulling your hair out because this employee is going to come to you so many times. The second thing to do is build systems. So you want to document all the workflow. So you want to document when a flower comes into my shop, what's the first thing I do with it? Obviously, I've got to check the inventory, and that's part of the document. You check the inventory. Then where does that flower go? Well, if it's a violet, it's going to go over on shelf number 34, and you document that as well, right? So they don't have to rely on your memory or worse, guess where things go. Because I'm telling you, and this step 3, doing this multiplies your value. So I want you to fast forward 10 years. So say you're a solopreneur now, let's fast forward 10 years and now you have 20 employees running your multiple flower shops around the city. If you have standards, then a buyer is going to pay you a lot more for that company than if everything is in the founder's head. And this is a lot of the work I'm doing right now with some of my clients. I have a client, he runs a $20 million commercial construction company, and he does it all in his head. And he wants to sell in 3 years. And I said to him, I said, I'm sorry, but you cannot sell because no one's going to buy your business because you are the business. And so if you can build and scale with that in mind to make you not the business has to be able to stand alone, right? Yes, you are the visionary, you're the strategist, you're the leader. But if you are also the doer and doing everything in there, you just have a job, basically. You don't really have a business. So you have to separate that mindset and really get to where you can have a business. And then tip number 5 is I just want to show you, this is how we approach our advising. And we have 6 propellers is what we call them. Financials are in the middle because financials are really important to know your numbers, because the numbers can tell you a lot of information about how to run your business. For example, if you're selling 7 different types of flower arrangements and you don't know which one makes you the most money, you can't make a decision about which one to do more of, right? And so that's what you want to do. You need to know your numbers. Then on the right side, we have the growth, right? So sales and marketing really help to grow the business. And on the left side is your capacity, right? How's your leadership? What you're recruiting? Are you getting good people in to help you and all of that? And then the flywheel around the outside is your productivity. And so those are the things that you have to balance, and you need to have, you need to focus on all of these. And it's always hard, it's hard to focus on all of them at once. And so what we do is we do a lot of work where we will create a roadmap, and we'll say, okay, 1 year from now, this is where we want to be. And so if we want to be at, if we want to be $1 million in revenue in 1 year, and currently we're at 500,000, what are the steps we need to take to get there? Well, that's going to affect sales. We got to do more sales, right? Which means we probably got to do more marketing, which means we probably got to recruit a salesperson, and then we got to work on our leadership to make sure our team is bought in. And then a couple of other things to maximize the value of your business. The health of your business by far directly impacts the value you can sell for. And when we talk about the health of your business, I'm just going to go back one. In each of these categories, how healthy is your business, right? Now, of course, it's not going to be 100% in every single one, unless you're like a unicorn, which is awesome, and I would love to meet you. But you got to maximize your valuation. And then there's 2 other ways that maximizes your valuation. And on the left, it talks about what type of sale. So if you sell to family and friends, it's probably going to lower your valuation. If you sell to private equity, it's going to increase your valuation, for example. And then, of course, based on the amount of revenue, like if you have a really big business, you're going to get a bigger figure for that. So I want to give you just these 4 steps, right? So to go from solopreneur to actual CEO. So step number 1, I want you to do an audit, right? Evaluate your health on each of those 6 propellers. Evaluate your gaps, evaluate your tasks. Step 2, start systematizing. It's never too early to put into place standards and processes. Step 3, delegate, right? Hire using that rule. And then step 4 that's when the scaling will happen, right? Because you're going to get your time back and be able to go after those things. We do have a health and value assessment. It's a really cool tool. It's like a quiz, right? That you go on to see how healthy is your business. And it gives you a score in each of those 6 propellers that we have. And then also it's going to give you a current valuation. So what is your business worth today? And then also it will tell you what it could potentially be worth if you worked on the health of your business. And it's a 100% free tool. And so if you are ready to scale, I highly suggest taking that assessment. And if you take that assessment, I would be happy to like jump on a call with you and just do a quick debrief about it and give you some tips and tricks to scale your specific business, because everybody's business is different and needs a unique approach, which is why as a business advisor, I only do one-on-one because I just really want to dig into your specific business. So I hope that helps you. I hope you learned something new today. So please grab that health and fill out the form to get the health and value assessment. I'll send it your way. And then you can have a peek into your own business.